Actors come and go, but some feel like they're the everlasting gobstoppers of Hollywood. Honestly, it's incredible to think that Tom Hanks continues the same busy schedule he has over multiple decades. With that being said, I have begun to notice a massive transformation in more than just his appearance. And well, that got me thinking. So here's a quick-fire list of all the actors who have changed a lot since their first role.
You've changed, bro. You've changed.
You know Robert Downey Jr. by his other persona, Tony Stark. Stark is a billionaire playboy philanthropist, and RDJ isn't far off from that in real life. Okay, he's not a billionaire, but he secured the bag making Marvel movies. All this seemed like a distant dream when he began his career. You may not know this, but Downey Jr. was a child celebrity, billed to be the next big thing. His father's lifestyle weighed on him, and eventually helped cause the fall from grace. It's wild to go from unreliable booking to one of the most important blockbuster commodities in recent years. Yeah, Keanu Reeves doesn't age like the rest of us and all that stuff. Regardless, he's elevated himself to a whole new level in the last couple of years, and that's the second time we've seen a change in his usual casting role. Reeves started out young, and everyone assumed we'd remember him for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, or his string of action movies. And then, he became Neo. A new legacy was born, and no one thought that he'd top that. Now look at him. He's back in comedies and taking some lighter roles that play off of his gigantic amounts of fame. Did we all have to read Treasure Island when we were like 13, or was that just my school? Anyways, you get to watch the movie and see none other than Christian Bale as the lead role. It was Batman as a child. Seriously, go watch it and tell me it is not odd to see him in such an ordinary part. Bale transformed himself into a chameleon. The man who would later be the Dark Knight wasn't known for any of his roles as a child actor. When you go back and look at his career path, you can see the slow, methodical transition. Women have a harder time staying in the film industry thanks to all the age discrimination in casting. I'm not saying anything controversial there, and I'm sure we all hope things continue to improve on that front. I'm so impressed by Meryl Streep because she defied those notions and made a career that beat out that factor. She's gone from leading lady to supporting roles and back many times over. She's been a badass and a sweetheart, all in the same calendar year. Yes, Meryl Streep will always be one of the greatest actors, but she transformed her role in Hollywood many times over to prove that. I think it's time that we recognize the decades of work that she's done to stay at the top. Look at this side character in Baywatch. You're telling me that's Jason Momoa in his first role? Okay, thought experiment then. If I showed you this picture and asked you what his career would end up being like, are you telling me you see him as Aquaman? Exactly, you don't. It's been hard work and dedication to the craft that's accelerated Momoa straight to the top. The journey's been quick, and the end is not in sight. I think it was bold to take a chance on him for Game of Thrones, but the choices worked out for everyone involved. Okay, you'd never give Leonardo DiCaprio a role like Arnie now, because Hollywood is better than that. However, the casting showed that, even as a teenager, casting directors knew Leo was a star. Titanic is what he'll probably be forever known for, but there is so much more to his career now. He had that run of films while pursuing his first Oscar that I don't think we'll ever see again for a long time. Since then, Leo's transformed himself yet again. He's judicious in his roles, and it shows that he wants to play characters with rough edges now that don't hog the spotlight. Ever since Leo finally climbed the mountain, it's felt like no one can guess what he'll do next. Tom Hanks is one of the legacy actors on this list who continues to defy expectations. He's carried the torch for so many fictional and non-fictional characters by giving them a profound voice when he plays them. If you don't think he's changed at all, do me a favor, watch him as Forrest Gump, then watch him as Mr. Rogers. There are new wrinkles to his work, both literal and metaphorical, that I can't even begin to explain. From Big to now, the way he continues to raise the bar is so impressive. Hanks refuses to stay boxed into anyone's expectations for him. You think you know the character that he likes, and then bam, he's suddenly on a new trend. Alan Rickman was entering a whole new stage of his career. To this day, I look at him in Eye in the Sky and can't help but wonder what might have been. He was embracing age and finding a spot in films that show his classical background. You see him as Hans Gruber in Die Hard, and it's hard to deny that he was always in stride with whatever role he's given. Rickman was done with the action-driven characters of his early years. He was taking things slower and playing characters that stole the screen with poise and bravado. I wish we could have seen more. Jamie Lee Curtis started out as a scream queen. No, scratch that. Jamie Lee Curtis started out as the scream queen. She dominated the slasher film genre with her ability to connect with the audience no matter how silly the premise was. Then it looks like things regressed. She was only playing the mom in the occasional B-flick. There were yogurt commercials and not much else. Finally, casting directors are remembering the staying power she has. She's transformed herself into a new age version of her past characters and something more. Her confidence radiates in a whole new way in these recent characters. Brace yourself for some real sad guy hours for this entry. Liam Neeson has found his stride. The roles he took always felt balanced, and he never fell too deep into one typecast or the other. After his wife's passing, things changed. That long string of action roles where he beat the crap out of people was a part of his grieving process. Time has healed those wounds, and you see Neeson returning to more traditional roles. He's willing to be in less serious parts and play a funny character more than he was a few years ago. I don't think that anyone will forget that string of hits he had in the action movie arena, but still, him moving back into roles that support range was best for everyone, fans included. You go back and watch some classic movies and what do you see? Well, every so often, you'll notice Harrison Ford as a minor character. He took on a few parts that we now consider below his pay grade. Han Solo changed everything for him. He became the blockbuster name for decades. We are seeing one last change in the twilight of Ford's career. He's taking on those old roles and giving them a new life. He's playing older versions of classic characters, and I can't say it's groundbreaking. However, it's nice to see him continue to work through this new trend. Natalie Portman's career's a bit like Benjamin Button, let me explain. So usually, an actor starts out in more mainstream films, then transitions into art house, then might go back into the mainstream. Portman started out in indie films at an incredibly young age. Let's be honest, she's done some fascinating roles before she could legally drive. Films like Annihilation and Lucy in the Sky mark her full entrance into more mainstream Hollywood movies. I'm not saying she missed out on them before this, but the transformation has finally taken hold. Portman looks like she's going to be doing action and sci-fi for a bit. Okay, I didn't think Ryan Reynolds would glow up the way he did when you see him as a child actor. What's more, the early part of his career made everyone think that he was bound to get stuck in rom-coms and nothing else. He will find his way into a romantic comedy here and there to this day, but he's got more staying power thanks to his meteoric rise in the superhero genre. Giving Ryan Reynolds the role of Deadpool helps show off his full range of comedic abilities. Now, he's a leading man in Hollywood. Clint Eastwood is the actor that your dad tells you is badass, then you see him in a movie and think, what the hell's he talking about with this guy? Most of the people watching this video don't know the whole experience of Clint Eastwood that older generations enjoyed. He was a hardened cowboy with a wild eye for tension. Nowadays, Eastwood is a grumpy old man who plays AARP versions of his younger characters for his own amusement. I don't mean to diss the legendary actor, but he's on the downswing. The thing with Clint Eastwood is a downswing for him still gives him solid profits. Rene Russo started out as your classic female support in some of those action and comedy movies that need a down-to-earth love interest. There's no doubt that she handled those roles with sincerity, but it always felt like she could do more. After a 5-year break, Russo returned to the industry and finally proved her point. The recent run of dramas and her role as Frigga in Thor highlights the point I'm trying to make. She blossomed into a star with real staying power after that short hiatus. We're lucky that she decided to come back and show us that she had a lot more left in the tank. So I mentioned that Keanu Reeves doesn't appear to age anymore. I'm quite certain that he shared that secret with Will Smith, or vice versa. Will Smith looks like he can jump back into the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air without needing to move the timeline up at all. Think about that for a moment. It was great to see him come to form in the late 90s, but even crazier to see him welcome a new stage in his career. He's that thing where he revises old roles, but he's also become a YouTube creator. He knows the power of his brand and transformed himself yet again. Even I, your all-powerful voice of authority, forget that Scarlett Johansson was a child actor. She moved into the indie scene at a young age and never seemed to care for the mass appeal type of movie. Of course, like Natalie Portman, things changed quickly, and she found a balance. She got the role of Black Widow, and that spawned a few blockbuster spots for her. However, she's never taken her foot out of the indie film pool. Johansson continues to work with rising directors on their next big project and lends her stardom to films that needed more attention. It's commendable. No actor ever needs to work smaller budget films after they've hit the big times, and I enjoy knowing that Scarlett Johansson still enjoys doing that work and with a fresh new perspective. Who is Anthony Hopkins at this point? I feel like the man's played every character under the sun. Look at his career in its entire length. Now that is a full-on transformation. Hopkins is a classically trained actor who stayed in roles worthy of that title for a period, all while lending his voice to films where you least expect him. All that to end up playing Odin in the Thor movies. Look at that glorious beard, you guys. How is it this man continues to reinvent himself year after year? I don't think people consider the fact that Matthew McConaughey was a punchline for years. The phrase, all right, was not tossed around ironically. McConaughey was the jester of Hollywood. He never appeared to be the guy that would seal the deal for an Oscar campaign. Dallas Buyers Club revised the public perception and repositioned his career. The rise was inevitable, but it's fun to look back on how he grew into this fame. Look at his new role in The Gentleman and tell me you could see that role for him back in Dazed and Confused. There's a reason you don't see Dustin Hoffman in big movies anymore, and we will leave you all to come to your own conclusions there. I don't want to put anything out there that distracts from the point of this list. Anyways, Hoffman started his career as a young, bumbling actor who always played the low-confidence character. With age comes confidence. Hoffman leaned into bolder and more actionable characters to give him more range. As he's aged, he's begun to show his more stubborn streak that's been reported for years. It comes out in his characters now is the real difference. Never doubt the staying power of an Aussie actor. Nicole Kidman was at the height of her power, and then a string of lousy casting decisions tanked her prospects. Many thought that she'd never make it back to the fame that she once held. Then, the roles started coming in again. She fit these dramatic characters like a glove and proved that you can't count out Nicole Kidman, ever. Sure, many of these new parts are in television shows, but that's where the creative energy is right now. No one cares where the role is, as long as she stays fantastic in everything she does. Daniel Radcliffe will always be the boy who lived. He can't escape Harry Potter, just like I can't escape the haunting feeling that I left someone super obvious off this list. Regardless, we've seen a noble effort by the young British actor to become something more than his legacy. His role in Guns Akimbo is probably the most popular example, but there is a flurry of bold choices by Radcliffe that illustrates his change. His run on Broadway was one for the record books, and I love that he refuses to settle for the fame he's already earned. Keep hustling, Harry. Okay, I'm gonna level with you all. I know there are entries you disagree with, and I've accepted that. I do know that Robert De Niro being on this list needs more justification. See, it's not that he's totally transformed, it's more than that. He's evolved. He started at the low end of crime for Scorsese and worked his way up to playing the boss. Then the entire lifespan was shown in The Irishman, and they even de-aged him to prove it. De Niro started cashing in on lowbrow comedies after a while, but he'll always be known for his roles in Scorsese films. Johnny Depp built a career on being willing to change and adapt to what fans want from him. He's been an up-and-comer, a supporting role, and the lead at various points in his career. His recent scuffle put him in an awkward position, but expect another comeback soon. Either way, every fan of his work has marveled at his efficient flight through the industry. He's been in dramas by Oscar-winning directors, pretty much any Tim Burton film, and beloved franchises like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's been years, but it's still hard to talk about what Robin Williams gave us throughout his brilliant career. One thing never changed, and that was his ability to make us smile and laugh. Ooh, yeah, I forgot about his role in Insomnia, but that was the exception, alright? As a comedian, Williams was able to go from stand-up to acting and back again without even blinking. The most impressive part of Williams' acting is how he jumped from medium to medium without stressing. He handled improv, animation, and sitcoms with a perfect rhythm while adjusting his language to match his audience. He was a bright spot in the world, and he will always be missed. There you have it. You know, in another couple of years, actors like Jared Leto and Zac Efron are bound to make this list. It's only a matter of time before you see another list of 25 actors who have gone through transformations. I give it like a year, 2 tops, so when it happens, come back to this video and let me know I'm right.